Good morning, dear students. So, in class 12th, we are going with the reading of chapter number 4, The Rat Trap by Selma Lazaroff. What we read yesterday? We read that the peddler took one night stay in Crofter's house, did something wrong by stealing the money, then went into the wood or the forest, could not get the way out of it. Suddenly, listened some thumping voice and followed the voice and went to Rama's iron work. There he went near the furnace to warm himself during this month, December month, and then he observed that the blacksmith was very busy in doing all kind of things in his job. Okay, so now let's continue. We know it very well. The tramp, the intruder, the stranger, the peddler, the vagabond has come here not for talking but for comfort. So let's see, continue from this one. It is written there, the tramp did not say anything either. He had not come here to talk but only to warm himself and sleep. He wanted to sleep and to warm himself over there near the furnace in Ramajo ironwork. Now, in those days, the Ramajo iron mill was owned by a very prominent ironmaster, and this is the ironmaster, as we know, the character of our chapter, whose greatest ambition was to ship out, to export good iron to the market. He watched both night and day to see that the work was done as well as possible, and at that very moment he came with the force on one of his highly nightly round of inspection. So what we got to know in this paragraph, that Ramesjo ironwork was famous in those days, and it was owned by a very prominent or very important person, means iron master, whose great ambition was to export the best quality of the iron, and for this reason he took, or he takes round in day as well as night to check the quality of ironwork. Now, naturally, the first thing he saw on the tall ragamuffin. Ragamuffin means rag. Torn clothes. Muffin means the person. The person who was wearing torn clothes. Who was that person? Peddler. Who was that person? Stranger. Who was that person? Vagabond. Who was that person? Intruder. Like all this. So tall ragamuffin who had eased his way to so close to the furnace, who was standing very near to the furnace, that steam rose from his wet rags, means the steam was coming from his wet as he was standing near the furnace. The ironmaster did not follow the example of his blacksmiths, who had hardly deigned to look at the strangers. I mean, the blacksmith, those who were working there with his assistant, he did not pay any attention to the stranger. He walked close to him, looked him over very carefully. The ironmaster goes very close to the peddler and observe him. Then torn off his slouch hat to get a better view of his face. Then he observed his face. But of course, it is you, Niels Olf. By after observing his face, the ironmaster calls him Niels Olf. He said, "How you do look?" Means, how are you looking? Means, he observed the condition of the cloth or his physical structure. Then he calls him Niels Olf, and then how do you look? The man with the rat traps had never before seen the ironmaster. First time the peddler was seeing, or whether was meeting ironmaster at Ramazan, and did not even know what his name was. Okay, but it occurred to him that it was a fine gentleman, thought he was an old acquaintance. See, this was the thinking of ironmaster, that he thought this person, means peddler, was his old identification, old acquaintance. He might perhaps throw him a couple of kroners, therefore he did not want to undeceive him at all at once. So this was the thinking, that he might perhaps throw him a couple of kroners. A couple of kroners means the money. Then, yes, God knows things have gone downhill with me, he said. The peddler said that God knows it very well. What are the things that are happening with me? Means He took money for enjoyment or for happiness, but later he came to know that he has become a rat who got into the rat trap, and this money has become a beat, B-A-I-T, beat. You should not have resigned from the regiment. Now, said the Ironmaster. Ironmaster thinks that he had resigned from the unit in defense services. That was the mistake. That was your mistake. If only I had still been in the service at this time, it never would have happened. So this was the thing spoken by the master. If it had been happened that you would have not resigned, you would not have got to in the situation right now in which you are. Okay. Well, now of course you will come home with me. The master invites him. Okay, you just come with me and go to our home. To go along to the manor house. Manor house means the ironmaster house, and be received by the owner like an old regiment comrade. That, however, did not please the tramp. Who is tramp? Peddler. What he thinks? Invited by an ironmaster, go to his house, finding an old regimental comrade. That was not a good thing for him. Then what did he think? The peddler think, no, I could not think of it. No, he thinks that I should not go, he said, looking quite alarmed. Alarm means alert. Fine. Then he thought of 30 crores. Suddenly he thought about 30 crores, that he thinks like, if I go with him, surely he will send me to the police and my money will be lost. Likewise, he thought. To go up to the manor house would be like throwing himself voluntarily into the lion's den. Lions means to fall into problem. Okay, to fall into problems. So that's why he does not want to go. He thinks that if I go with him, it would be like that inviting problem knowingly. Then he only wanted a chance to sleep here in the force and then sneak away as inconspicuously as possible. What was his aim? Just to pass the night by sleeping near the furnace, or to uh, give him comfort during this December month and sneak away quietly without telling anyone in the morning or early in the morning. Then the ironmaster assumed that he felt embarrassed because of his miserable clothing. Now, what did ironmaster think? That this person means Niels Olaf, according to ironmaster, is refusing him for not going home because of his poor clothing, poor getup. Please don't think that I have such a fine home that you cannot show yourself here. Now I must say this thing to him. Please, Nilsson, don't think that I have such a fine house or good house for you where you cannot show yourself. He said, he also added, Elizabeth is dead. Who is Elizabeth? Elizabeth refers here the wife of Ironmaster. Okay, as you may already have heard, you might have heard this thing that my wife is dead. My boys are abroad, and his children, means boys especially, they are out of country, and there is no one at home except my oldest daughter. His daughter is also there. So only two members and myself. We were just saying that it was too bad we didn't have any company for Christmas. Then the I must give and gives a reason to the peddler that it would be bad if we do not have any company to celebrate this Christmas evening. Now come along with me and help us make the Christmas food disappear a little faster. Now he invites him to come to his home and go to his home, and you can say celebrate the Christmas evening or food. But the stranger said no and again no, and he keeps on refusing the invitation or declining the invitation, and the ironmaster saw that he must give in. Ironmaster said he should come to my house. It looks as though Captain Von still prefer to stay with you tonight. Strange Johnson, he said to the master smith, and turned on his heel. Then he added one thing to the blacksmith. Blacksmith, I think this person means, as per the observation of the ironmaster, this person, peddler, was Captain Von Stale, and he preferred to stay in this Ramazzo Ironworks tonight. But he laughed to himself as he went away, and the blacksmith, who knew him, understood very well that he had not said the last word. The blacksmith, the employee of the Ramazzo Ironwork, knows it very well that the ironmaster did not complete his sentence. It means the task of inviting the peddler to his home still under process. It was still going. Okay, so that was the thing. Then it was not more than half an hour before they heard the sound of carriage, means car, wheel outside the forts. After some time, a car came and a new guest came in. Who would be that new guest? The daughter of Ironmaster Adla. But this time it was not the Ironmaster. Okay, he had sent his daughter. He had sent his daughter, apparently hoping that she would have better power of persuasion. Dear children, this is the only best quality of the daughter. You should learn powers of persuasion than he himself. The ironmaster went to his home and he sent his daughter to invite the peddler. As we know, the peddler directly has declined the invitation of the master, and he knew it very well that his daughter has a great powers of persuasion, means convincing power. That's why he sent his daughter to call the peddler to his home. She entered, followed by a valet. Valet means servant, carrying on his arm a big fur coat. She was not at all pretty. The girl was not so pretty, but seemed modest and quite shy as per his age. In the forge, everything was just as it had been earlier in the evening. Means the environment of the forge or the Ramazan was same as it was in the evening when Ironmaster was there. The master blacksmith and his apprentice still sat on their bench, and iron and charcoal still glowing in the furnace. The same things were going on. The stranger had stretched himself out of the floor and lay with a piece of big iron under his head and his hat pulled down over his eyes. Means, as the ironmaster left the Ramazan work, and the peddler comforts himself with the big iron under his head and sleeps over there. As soon as the young girl caught sight of him, as the young girl reached over there, she went up and lifted his head. The man was evidently used to sleeping with one eye open. This is the strategy or the method of sleeping of the peddler, that whenever he sleeps with one eye open. He jumped up abruptly and seemed to be quite frightened. Frightened means surprised, fearful, as he moved by the hat. The hat, suddenly he got frightened. Okay, dear children, that's all for today. We will continue with the next point in next video. Thank you. Have a good day.